Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabetch Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabetch Bachman.
Hello and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. This is the podcast where we interview experts on how do you show up? How do you do a great presentation that will get you the results that you want? And today, my guest is the amazing Laura Gisborne. Laura Gisborne is a highly successful business expert. She's had over 20 years experience, from structuring and selling small boutique businesses to owning a multi-million-dollar wine and real estate empire. She's owned 9 businesses, her first when she was only 23 years old. Laura is an internationally recognized speaker and serves as a business consultant for business leaders and entrepreneurs in a wide range of industries. The innovative business model of her company, Legacy Leaders Global, exemplifies that companies can be both profitable and purposeful. And I'll have to say, by companies, we mean companies with hundreds of thousands of employees and companies that are just one person working from their laptop. It's still possible to be profitable and purposeful. Through Laura's initiatives, thousands of women and children around the globe are receiving regular contributions, multiple countries, 5 continents. She's truly an international leader. She's also served as a guardian ad litem for foster children through CASA. She's been a parent education coordinator for Family Outreach, board member for Habitat for Humanity, the New Peaks Foundation, and she's on the business engagement team of the Pachamama Alliance. Laura Gisborne is an author of multiple books, especially Stop the Spinning, Move from Surviving to Thriving, and Limitless Women. And she's been featured as a guest expert on both CBS, ABC, and as well on the national hit show, The List. You can hear more from her now, and you learn more about her work at www.limitlesswomen.com. And in this conversation, we talked a lot about leadership and facing the moments of who am I to do this. I made a whole list of the things that we talked about, especially what's your greatest resource? What are the attributes of a leader? And how you heal the poverty consciousness. It's not called that. It's called making your business profitable. But it's one of the things that Laura talks about. And she talks about having faith and trust, which is always a lesson that's useful for me to learn. So here we go with Laura Gisborne. Laura Gisborne, I'm so happy to have you on Speakers Who Get Results.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's great to be with you.
Yes, and I do notice that you just said that it was either today, we're recording in January, or May. So right. I'm so glad to have grabbed an hour of your time as a busy lady.
Thank you,
Before we get into all the wonderful things that you have to teach us and to impart, the question I ask everybody is, what's your dream interview? If you could interview someone who's no longer on the earth with us, and who would it be? What would you ask them? And who ought to be in the audience to listen?
So I think that the person I'm most curious about right now that I'd love to have been reading about her and have been studying her work and her legacy is Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa, yeah. And it's interesting because I was not raised a Catholic, so it's not that element for me, but her work as a humanitarian, as a philanthropist is very inspiring. And that's who I'd like to interview.
Okay. And what would you ask her?
I recently read some of her letters that she wrote, and it was kind of these letters that were the crisis of faith. Like, who am I to do this? Am I really on the right path? And it's interesting because she never had that. When we see interviews with her, we see the work in the world, we never really pick up on that. And I was fascinated by that distinction. Really, is this what I'm meant to do? The other piece that was fascinating for me recently that I read was around her calling. It took a big calling to become a nun, first and foremost, but then to leave her, I don't know what you call this, right? You might know what you call this, but where you're
Her
in a
order.
Her order, thank you, yes. To leave her order and to go to her mother superior and say, I actually have to now go to India. I have a different calling, to really, and have no infrastructure and no groundwork there on the ground, and her to really go there and say, I don't know how, but I'm going to show up. I just find this really inspiring. And I think, to answer your question about like who would be the audience, who hasn't felt that? Who hasn't felt a little bit of like, gosh, who am I to do this? Especially those of us that are out as speakers and leaders in the world. There's a lot of that. I don't know if that hot pops for you, but amongst my other friends who are out there speaking and leading, what do we do when we have that crisis of faith? What do we do when we say, wait a second, it's not going the way I thought it was going to go? Am I crazy? What's going on here? How does she move herself through that to create an amazing impact and really save millions of lives?
And of course, when she started, she would have had no idea that it would be any impact at all. Although I suppose she would have realized that she would have made an impact on a few people.
Sure.
Hand to hand.
Exactly.
So this isn't what I was going to ask you, but this is great because
I really question.
But this is actually leads me to another question then, which is for you. And so you work with women stepping forward to claim their space, claim their visibility, etc. How does one deal with the crisis of faith? I don't know any woman who hasn't lain awake in the middle of the night thinking, who am I to be doing this?
Or, maybe I should shift gears. I think it's the place of like, the first and foremost is really that who am I question, but then also like, is this the right path? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? So I'd say for the who am I, what keeps me going is I have a deep commitment to my faith. And I feel that I don't have to know the answers. Everything that I do today in my leadership work was presented for me. And if I can remember to be in what I call my conversations with God, and remember to be in faith, and to remember to receive, and really follow the path of least resistance. Now, this is kind of a different spin on the wheel, I think, than how a lot of us were raised to believe. But it's been my adult understanding and my experience that the greatest things that have come in my life have come very quickly and very easily. And when I've learned to follow that path of grace, yesterday was Scott and I, we were celebrating our 20th anniversary, and everyone loves the story of how we got married in 10 weeks after our first date. And I think that's a great story. But today I'm like, wow, the juice of 20 years in partnership is so delicious. And if I hadn't followed that, knowing that intuition and jumped in with both feet, as he did as well, the adventures that we've had wouldn't have happened, right? So it's that place of learning to follow that which presents, and really trusting and knowing, and not always knowing the outcome. I mean, I think that's really the place of, if I stay out of my own way and I really trust the divine unfolding and follow those paths that present, I get a lot less of the questioning of who am I to do it.
That's wonderful. Sometimes I call trust, that T word. It says, oh yes, trust. It's you mean I really do have to let go of control and trust that it's going to be okay?
Right.
So, Laura Gisborne, this is great because I wanted to ask you about leadership. This podcast is about internationally stepping forward, claiming your place, and focusing on the live communication part of it, because that's what I teach as a presentation skills trainer, whether it's in standing up in front of a group, or convincing a client to enroll with you, or to use your company, or in a meeting to compete. How do you do? It is leadership. And really, that speaking is a tool. It's a cool tool. It's a really fun tool, but it's a tool in service of, it's one of the tools that helps you show up as a leader. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you say?
I would say, and I think it's a fascinating adventure because, you and I were talking before we got on this recording about the first time we met and how terrifying
you were a speaker. Yes.
Can be. Yeah, I was just brand new and I was being invited to speak and I wasn't a speaker and I didn't have any training. And yet it was that, again, following the calling, following the invitation, saying, showing up and saying, how can I serve? Mm-hmm. Where would I be of service here? What would that look like? And many times, Elizabeth, and this doesn't go with the presentation structure per se, but it does go with what I would love to really have more women and more men feel, which is the confidence of service first. Very frequent that I go into a room, especially a smaller group or a smaller audience. Scott and I were just in Africa a few weeks ago working with a nonprofit organization there. And I start a lot of my presentations with an inquiry, which mm-hmm. is, what's in it for you? Like, how can I best serve you today? What's up for you right now? And it's amazing how that kind of engagement creates just, again, a flow of energy.
Yeah, I often say that is rule number one in speaking, is make it about the listener. Mm-hmm. What is it that they want? What are they looking for?
Right.
And, start with that. But also thinking back to the first time we met, mm-hmm. I had no idea you were just beginning. You came to an eWomen group where I was a known member. Right. And I hadn't met, but you flew in from out of town, so you weren't mm-hmm. local.
Right.
And everybody was there chatting and saying hi and whatever. And I saw you over there looking just a tad lost.
Probably very lost.
And you covered it up well, but that is my business. Notice these, and you also looked really smart and really interesting. So I came over and said, who are you? Oh, you're our speaker today. Welcome. And anybody who's listening to this, if you're ever at an event and there's a speaker who doesn't already know the group, go say hi, because they probably really need it.
Absolutely.
I've been stranded that way a few times, and it's not much fun. So, right. We're all human, and we've been friends ever since. And mm-hmm. then I've come to some of your events.
Yes, you taught at one of my events.
Yes.
So I was trying to remember the date, because I think that event was 2016, maybe.
2015, 2016, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was very interesting. Yeah. So, talking about leadership and mm-hmm. and leadership in terms of showing up mm-hmm. and really stepping forward and saying, I can do this. You should listen to me. Right. I know something. What are the great attributes of being a leader?
Well, I think, again, when we're called to lead others, and I really wish I could remember where I read this, Elizabeth. It's just been true for me as a business leader. I've owned 9 companies. I've sold 6 of them. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. So I've run large teams and small teams. And the reality is that for me, one of the great tenets of leadership is that leaders cultivate other leaders. So I find that people who are really amazing at leadership have a presence about them. There's something that cannot be overstated about the power of presence, which goes also with this conversation, right? Like, where speakers learn to shine and get their word out. It's the grounding, it's the knowingness. And so I think that this idea of, how do I show up in every interaction 100% present for what's being presented? Right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we go in with our agenda. That's not always what's in the highest and best. It requires a presence, a grounding, a positioning. And I think that when that happens and someone's really listening, what I think one of the most common human conditions all over the world is that people want to be seen and heard, right? So if we're actually leading others in the same way that we're maybe standing on a stage and having the opportunity to impact an audience, what's in it for them? Where are they right now? And so being really present and really compassionate for yourself and the other person is a big piece of this. And everyone has something to share. Everyone has something to say. So really listening with kindness and compassion for what the other party is saying is a big part, I think, of this cultivating of other leaders.
And I would add to that, again, here I am, I'm a speaker trainer. So I would add to that, what do they need and how can my knowledge serve them?
Yes.
How can what I know or the questions I know to ask serve them? And then to present it in a way that they are ready to hear.
Right. Meet them where they are.
Yeah. And that's also, especially in our increasingly international business world,
right.
You've got to make sure that that whatever you're referring to is, sometimes you have to actually spell it out. So not everybody knows what you're referring to. So bearing that in mind of not only what do they need and how can I serve, but how can I present it in a way that they will get it.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So talking about the attributes of leader, talk a little bit about what you do with your company. So your current company of your many companies.
Well, and it's been, we started our initiative as a fundraising organization, as a business training fundraising organization.
Now, is this Limitless Women or is this Legacy Leader?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And Legacy Leaders is actually a program offered by Limitless Women. So there's a handful of private sector businesses that I work with who really know that they want to grow and scale for purpose. And so that really the only way that we decide that that's a good partnership is if they're interested in giving back to charity. So we help organizations partner with nonprofits and charities that they care about so that they can grow their business in a purposeful way. That's one segment of where I spend my time. The other segment where I spend my time is really helping the nonprofits as part of my philanthropy to help scale and grow their organizations. And it's a pretty fascinating thing. For all the years that I was building my private sector businesses, we were in real estate, and we had a winery, with all these cool things going on. I was always volunteering in the nonprofit sector. So to be in this season of life where I bring those two things together, what I find is that so many of the founders and the leaders of private sector businesses deal with the same thing that we're talking about. Who am I to do this? Is this really my calling? Is this the bigger work? Mm-hmm. There's something that has them inside feeling that there's something bigger and something more. So by actually taking their profits and using them for purpose, it's amazing to see how they grow, not only individually in their leadership, but how their organization starts to grow, how their team starts to get on board. There's a whole lot of that that's fantastic. And every nonprofit that I've worked with for 30 years always needs funding. And it's also, those are always started by a founder with a great passion, and then they build teams. Like I said, we were just in Uganda with a team of 20 employees, paid employees. And the passion for the vision and the mission is so there, and yet fundraising is not always a place that comes easily, right? So creating this marriage and this partnership between private sector and nonprofit is really what we're about.
That's actually how I learned the art of public speaking. Was I started a nonprofit, and I was invited to create an opera company in the Alps. I said, "Yay, hooray!" And then, oh my God, you mean I have to raise $100,000 just to start? So, and it was just me. So, that's where I learned the art of speaking to actually get a result.
Yes.
Talk a little bit more about how you define purpose. There again, bearing in mind that not everybody who's listening to this will have English as their first language.
Okay.
So spell it out a little bit more. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think it's actually a very personal adventure. Let me say that first. What's purposeful for one person is not purposeful for another. And yet what I find is that when we, because I travel and we work all over the world, everyone that I meet, we want to have the people we care about to be healthy. We want our own bodies to be healthy. We want to be able to get up and make a difference with our work. Now, not everyone has a deep understanding or a spiritual practice or, has grown up in the culture of giving. And yet what I find is that it's a fascinating piece, Elizabeth, where giving actually causes growing. It causes personal growth. It causes business growth. And it's a little bit of a backwards idea, because most people think someday when I get there, I'll give back. What actually happens, the giving causes the growing. It's when we expand, and this I think goes back to really what you teach and lead with. When we get out of our comfort zone, right? You've got somebody who knows they have a message and they want to get it out there, but they're terrified, right? You teach them how to shine. You give them the resources and the skills to do this. Once they've expanded into that place of confidence and they've found their voice, they don't really go back.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're expanded in the giving, they're expanded in the growing. And that's really where we work with organizations and individuals. It's like, how do we support you in your own personal development and expansion as leader? And at the same time, who is it that your heart calls to make a difference for? Where is there some place that you're touched?
That's actually wonderful. I'm wondering, so the yeah buts. That's one of the things I talk about a lot with speakers also, is how do you address the yeah but.
Right.
There is a sort of a scarcity mentality, especially with women.
Yeah.
I'll wait till I get there to donate. How can I possibly donate if I'm only just barely making payroll, or if I'm only just barely paying my bills? How do you address that one?
Well, here's a beautiful thing to share with your community. The secret mission that's not so secret of Limitless Women is to heal the poverty consciousness of women business leaders. And yet at this point, Elizabeth, we've been doing this work now for about 7 years. No one has come to me and said, hey, will you help me heal my poverty consciousness? Mm-hmm. What they say is, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. I'm just always behind. Or there's not enough hours in the day. These are two symptoms that show up, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm working so hard, but at the end of the day, I still feel like I didn't do enough. It's a little bit of a human condition in the developed world. And I say that very clearly. In the developed world, it's a human condition that there's not enough, or I'm not enough. Something we've fed through our education, through our media, through people who are doing the best that they could with what they understood. But that scarcity mentality, that not enough, causes us to focus on what's not there, and creates, it's really, Lynn Twist wrote a book, The Soul of Money, and she's probably the person that I respect and admire the most about this work, because it's been her legacy, for 50 years. The idea of scarcity is actually a false concept. Mm-hmm. There's no lack of resources on the planet. And we in the developed world, meaning that if you're listening to this or you're watching on a computer, you have resources beyond what the majority of the planet even has access to. Mm-hmm. We need to learn to be resourceful. And it's an interesting thing. Have you ever had the experience where you gave someone a gift and you were a little more excited about it than they were?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And maybe they loved it, but the joy for you of crafting that or wrapping it or finding it for them and just knowing it was going to be something so perfect. Mm-hmm. There's this place again, this is not a new concept. The Bible is very old, and that's just one path, right? The Quran, there's many places where we've learned this in the Talmud. This piece around the gift is in the giving. This is what I would consider a universal principle, a universal truth. And so the idea of how to heal the not enoughness is to get out of our own way.
Oh, yeah.
And to expand and give what we have, and understand that what is a small amount to us can really be life-changing for another person. And I sent out, every Friday I send out a free gift. And I sent out a free gift Friday recently about what can you give that's not about your money? If you're healthy, you can give your blood. You can donate your organs. You can donate your time. You can clean out your closet. There's so many ways that we can contribute and make a difference for someone who may just be on hard times, or may not have access to resources. So it's not about when I get there. It's about what can I do now to really make it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is really, that's great. That's really wonderful. It's one of the things I really loved when I first heard from you. And yes, my voices were going, no, I can't give it. I need every cent for me. So that it kind of circles back towards faith and trust too.
Mm-hmm.
Is that faith and trust, and just do it because it's a good thing.
Well, and do it because you can. There's a whole thing about strategic philanthropy. I'm a business strategist at the heart of the work, right? Whether I'm working in private or nonprofit, or I'm helping businesses grow and expand. And there's an idea around strategic philanthropy that we give to get, because it's kind of a hip thing these days. And I encourage people to really consider, especially in the tentative leadership, that you're not giving to get, you actually get to give. When you realize that several billion people, more than 2 billion people, live on less than $3 a day in the world. You're talking about having a global audience. I can't fathom, as a wife and a mother and as a woman who was born in the United States, what it would look like to actually raise my family on $1,000 a year. I can't get my head around that. And yet when I go to, just this month, we've been in Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zanzibar. We've been in many places where, again, people have literally the shirt on their back and they hope to have a meal for their child. I mean, education even becomes a luxury. Water becomes a luxury. That's not running in their house. They don't have electricity. And I'm not saying this for anyone to feel bad. I just want us all to have a perspective of how actually affluent we are. So the fact that we get to give and we share what we can do. I mean, this is a piece I would say, Elizabeth, because you and I met before I really got clear about Limitless Women as a fundraising organization. We set out a milestone for our company in 2015. We said if we could raise $250,000 over the next 5 years, we'll know we're on the right track. And when we do our business trainings, we invite everyone to give directly to the nonprofits, either our nonprofit that we've vetted or the nonprofit of their choice, and give what they feel comfortable. Now, what's interesting is the nonprofits don't say to me, oh, Elizabeth donated $10, you donated $10, and Melissa donated $20. They don't tell me that. Mm-hmm. They say, this is what your community has contributed. So as of today, we're having this call. It's 2020, and my first conversation in 2020, literally.
Me too, yes.
Not even my husband. He went to work this morning. As of 2020, we've raised close to $400,000 for charity. And that's pretty good, right? And it has not been me. It's been you. It's been our community members, each donating a little bit at a time, cumulatively what we can track. And there's probably more than that, but that's what we can track at this point, is close to $400,000, which is good stuff. We're on the right track.
I love that you said Limitless Women is a fundraising organization instead of a business training school. So let me, with all of this, and there's so many things to think about and so forth, as a leader, what should we focus on?
Mm-hmm. I think a couple of different things. It's interesting because when I'm teaching about money, because I get asked about money a lot, and when I teach about this, I say money is the easy part. Figuring out your systems for how to monetize a business or how to raise funds for your organization. These things are out. How do we do marketing? How do we do sales? In my mind, those things actually become fairly easy over time. What I think becomes a challenge for leaders is the opportunity to keep growing into the next version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. I feel like if we're alive and breathing, God's not done with us. There's the next level of our contribution, our experience, in the what I call the adventure, right? Being on this adventure of life. Mm-hmm. So where I think it becomes a little tricky, Elizabeth, is in getting out of our own way, right? Our mindset, this piece of who am I, when it's not about us, it's about the cause, it's about the community, it's about the team, it's about the bigger work. That's one piece that I feel like is, again, constantly a muscle that needs to be strengthened for leaders. I think the idea of the power of presence we talked about earlier in this conversation, for me personally, requires a healthy practice. What I mean by that is, how do I take care of myself and my body first, so that when I do open my mouth, I'm not coming from a place of not feeling good or being tired or being distracted. How can I be fully present in every conversation? If I don't take care of myself first, I'm not very good at that. And I have a feeling that other people have the same challenge because they share it with me, right? So that means requiring, what does your body need? Sleep, what kind of fuel, movement of some type. I'm not saying that, I'm not a person who go out and run marathons, but what's a daily practice of movement to help your body get grounded so that your brain can be really present in a conversation?
That's wonderful.
Practices, this is a daily practice of leadership.
Yes, exactly. And you said something about finding your most important resource.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Well,
I have my list, which I'm scribbling all over here.
Thank you. I'm honored. Well, I'll tell you this piece that I think is fascinating. My husband and I were having a conversation last night, and he works at a resort here in Colorado, and he's the top salesperson for this organization once again. And I said, you're such an example of a person who is doing exactly what you should be doing. I mean, he started selling, he grew up very poor in the United States by United States standards. And he started selling vegetables door to door when he was 7 years old. And he would then, like when he was about 10 or 11, he would go to the golf courses, love golf, and he would find golf balls, he would clean them up, and then he would sell them to the golfers. He's just this kid who thinks differently, you know what I mean? And he would mow lawn. I mean, he was just such a hard worker. But he's been selling, he's now 58. He's been selling really since he was 7 years old. Why I'm giving you that story about Scott is this. All of us have something we've been doing, and we've got a little practice at it. We've got some mastery, but we're not usually aware of what it is. And when we find that groove, and we really bring that to our work, and we bring that to our organizations, it's a bit like breathing. It's not a hard thing to do. So the question then becomes a different question. How do I discover what I'm fantastic at? Mm-hmm. And how do I live in that lane?
Oh, I love that. So find what you're good at. And yet this whole thought about if you build it, they will come, mm-hmm. has got so many people in trouble over the years.
Yeah.
So
what do you clarify that for me?
In terms of people have a dream. I spent 30 years in nonprofit arts, mm-hmm. and it was also never about the money. We do it for the love of the art, mm-hmm. which has then landed me in places where, I have to pay the rent now.
Right.
I've been there.
Good.
And so dreaming, but realistically.
Yes. So I'd love to talk about that for a second.
Please.
Because this is a place that I see so many leaders become a little bit of martyrs. Mm-hmm. Right? And I say this at the risk of offending all
the martyr meaning
that I'm going to sacrifice myself on behalf of this other thing, uh-huh. and therefore I'm valuable.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah, been there, done that. Yes.
Different words for it, but martyr.
Really trying not to do it again, but yes.
Or woe's me. And so I say this frequently that, because I was raised in the Christian faith, I have many beliefs, that encompass what I believe a global perspective on spirit. And at the same time, we don't solve any problems by doing that. Mm-hmm. We don't solve any problems by being a martyr. I joke that Jesus came already to save us. We don't have to do this. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the thing that I said a few minutes ago about self-care. Mm-hmm. If we take care of ourselves first, we take care of our basic needs, then we go into the world of service. It's a very different thing. What I think happens often is that we get so turned on and so fired up about the service that we forget the self-care. And that's yes. where I think we have oops, I forgot to make money to pay my bills. We have to take care of ourselves first. We have to take care of our sufficiency. And that should be the first order of business in business.
Yes.
In life. So this morning, again, you and I have been friends for a long time. So, I don't do breakfast talks. It's just not my great energy time of the day. So I was like, I love you, Anne. And I sent you an email. I love you, Anne. I'm going to need a few more minutes if you need me to actually show up on film. I
Yes.
should bath and wash my hair and like put on some makeup before I talk to you if you want me on camera. I had to do that first to come to you fresh.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
I wouldn't feel great if I just rolled out of bed. I'm thinking we're on audio. I'm good. I can just be in my jammies.
Yes.
But if you want me on camera, like I have to feel good and grounded and give you my best.
And of course I want you on camera because I'm watching you at this. So if you're listening to this and you're just listening to the audio, do yourself a favor and look up the video, because watching Laura Gisborne, that amazing smile, and yes, and watching your energy is really wonderful. Laura, this is great. I know you have to run and then you don't have another break until May. So,
well, here's the piece around that though. I'll say, yes, I'm going to run, but I'm going to run and do what I know feeds my soul.
Yes.
Right. It doesn't feel like a struggle. I've learned, and I would love to share this, just if I may, Elizabeth, because I didn't.
I was just going to say, do you have something to leave us with? So I think that would be, yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So two things first. Two things, if I may. The first one I was starting to say is really this getting good at saying no to that which doesn't fit,
mm-hmm.
and really trusting that. You know what I mean? And really, again, for me, I have a lot of prayer and meditation that helps me know. But your body, and this is a place that you lead so well with speakers and getting themselves really present and grounded where they shine, your body will tell you. It's different to have butterflies, and then to have a knowing that something's just not right. It's not lighting up. It doesn't feel good. It's okay to say no. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a no is just a not now. And that's really important to remember. If it doesn't feel good and it's not lining up, if prayer is your practice, ask to be shown, when is the right time for this? Is this the right thing for me? And your body will respond. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it's not easy to be called for leadership. I always refer to my husband. He's my dear beloved, and he's really present with me right now, obviously, because we're celebrating our anniversary right now. He joked with me about this years ago, about there's one queen bee and a whole lot of worker bees. So in nature, there's generally one leader and a whole lot of followers. And that's divine, and that's the way it is. When you're called for leadership, it's not egoic. It's not about you. It's about the worker bees. You get to be in service. You have this opportunity. So my request is that you be compassionate with yourself in the process.
Be compassionate, yes.
To be called to lead, and do it always from service. And it's, but be compassionate with the fact that you're a mere mortal in a human body, doing the best you can. Just keep showing up each day with the next step, and be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others.
Oh, Laura, this is a lovely way to end. How can we find out more?
Thank you for asking. So you can visit us at limitlesswomen.com. And we have a lot of good things that we offer there, and great education. And I would love to support you in any way that we can. Is it
just for women?
Here's the piece. We are a women's leadership organization. We love men, and we have men come around now and again who feel the calling to support women through their lives and their work and their business. But we're a community of women supporting women. We really are.
That's great. And I have to say, of all the newsletters that I get and that I subscribe to and then unsubscribe over, your Free Gift Fridays is one. I've been following that for years. And it's just one of those, oh, there's a little Laura Gisborne in my inbox. Yay, hooray.
Well, I just would give a little, invitation for that. I believe that as we're revamping our website this year, the Free Gift Friday will be on that website, but there is a website for freegiftfriday.com if anybody's interested in getting, goodies from us. I send out every Friday resources for personal development and business development, and so happy to share.
Very useful. I've got a whole folder of ones that I've downloaded. So thank you so much, Laura Gisborne. This has been Speakers Who Get Results, and I'm just delighted to have you here. as a reminder, before we leave, if you want to see where your presentation skills are strong, where your leadership skills are strong, where maybe you'd like a little bit of support, you can go to speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com. And I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabetch Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.